All right. Happy Halloween for those of you that, well, celebrate it, or at least their country celebrates it. Oh, look at that mask. In in some of the advanced work that we do, we actually have people wear masks. And what you start to see is that when people put on a real mask, their real personality starts coming out. So it's very interesting when we have permission, uh, what inside comes out. It's very similar to, I notice when I sing in like a silly voice, I sing better than when I try to sing my normal voice. It's actually been a thing I've been working through. But yeah, masks. In this work, we're trying to let go of our masks, but when we actually put a physical one on, um, it allows us to take our personality mask off and really show up. So, fun little fact. All right, Danielle, I see you got your finger on the trigger. Is there anything that you wanted to share or no?
No, I was just, I don't know.
Okay. Well, let's go to Glenn. You were here last time, but you didn't hop on. If you'd like to start by introducing yourself and how you found us, and yeah, we'll just share a little bit.
Well, my second time through the book, and guess I just was inspired to dig into. I guess I was YouTubing a little bit, to find some videos of yours or something, and that led me to your website, and that led me to here. Um,
And you're coming to the Slack line, right?
yes,
Amazing. Brave.
after like all these years of reading books by myself, I'm finally, trying to get involved and get some actual other person help. Um,
Great.
yeah.
And where'd you find the book?
Um, Probably Amazon recommended it, I would guess. It's been I, at least a year or
Oh,
more that
wow.
I've had
Cool.
it. Um, yeah, second time through now. I I got to the chapter of when intellect slows you down. And I had hardly had any pages in that chapter dog-eared, and but the second time through, it's like it really caught my attention. Those that reject feeling, that's me. I don't know. It seemed like around in there is when I started like looking for YouTubes and then found you in person. Um, I could mention, I guess, like my first spiritual path was through A Course in Miracles.
Hmm.
So I relate to, a lot of your teachings and philosophies and whatever of who we really are inside and this ego that we carry around. And, the object is to minimize that, or as the Course would say, remove the obstacles to love. And when you remove the obstacles, you're left with love. So kind of agree with your teachings from my past experience.
Great.
I'm
Anything?
I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for what
Okay.
that's worth.
Great. And what inspired you to start looking for other people?
Um, there's another guy that I've followed for quite a while now. Uh, I haven't attended his workshops, but I've got some of his teachings. But I was thinking about like joining with him more in person, and then I don't know. Like I said, just kind of came your way, and I don't know, just try this path.
Okay. What did you think of the cinesomatic video that I sent? And what's your experience with, well, in the body kind of stuff?
Um, I find it pretty fascinating. I mean, I haven't seen this taught anywhere else. It seems new to me, this idea of looking at how somebody moves and being able to see where they're stuck, that kind of thing. And it to me makes a lot of sense. I don't know. I seem to believe in it at the moment.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for joining. It's good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Nadine, hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Yes. Oops.
Uh,
There you
I
go.
just unmuted myself. Is that,
Perfect.
can you hear it?
Yes.
Okay.
Great. So just share a little bit about yourself and how you found me and what's going on.
Yeah, I'm from originally near Brisbane in Australia, and I'm traveling right now. I'm in Peru. Um,
Oh, we're in Peru.
it's called the Sacred Valley. So,
Yeah. I'm going to be in Peru in a few weeks
oh really?
in Iquitos.
Uh, that sounds familiar, but just the way you're pronouncing it, I
Yeah, I
can't.
don't know. Maybe I'm mispronounced.
Iquitos, yeah, Iquitos,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Um, I can't place it right now, where that is. But it sounds like it's near where I am right now. Is that the? Oh no, that's. Oh yeah, that's the jungle, right?
Yeah, yes. The Amazon
Oh,
jungle.
okay. What are you doing? What are you going to do
Almost
there?
magic. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking entheogens, I guess you would call it
Mhm.
here, like right now. Um, and I found I bought your book off Amazon, like a cheap deal, and I thought it looked interesting. And
Where'd you get a
then
cheap deal on my book?
yeah, if a book's like $1 or two, I'll
Oh,
definitely take a
it
bet
must
on
have been a
it.
special.
Yeah, it was. I bought it a while ago, and I read it. I read it quite some time ago, and I read it
Okay.
all, and I just put it aside. And then recently, you'd put on YouTube a video of one of these sessions, and then I watched that, and it rekindled my interest in the book. And then I've just reread the book again, the entire thing, and yeah, I liked all the concepts in it. I thought they were very profound, and um, yeah, and I like this idea of like a community. So yeah, yeah. Is there anything else
Have you
you want me
watched any of
to?
the other replays inside the group?
Yeah, I did. I didn't like. I looked at a few, and
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah,
Yeah. And so what stood out for you in the book?
yeah. There was a couple things actually when Glenn was talking about being in the body. It suddenly tweaked in my mind that concept of how you do one thing is how you do everything, and I thought that was pretty neat. And also that thing of cross wiring, like how it's
Mhm.
like the hot and cold tap, how you kind of believe the wrong things. Like that was just I I just know that's so true, and I've had experience in that, and it can make things so hard when you believe something and you think that's true, and then how you go about doing things in that way or something, and you just keep
Yeah, the
repeating
more
it.
you go in the way that doesn't work that you think is gonna work, the worse things get. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like how, and you don't even know it. Like
Course,
I
yeah.
just keep doing the same thing
Yeah,
and just
that's the right way to do it. You just keep doing it this way. That's what everybody says. That's what I know. That's what everybody else is doing. And yet it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. That's nearly a sure sign of reverse wiring. Yeah.
And it's good to know that there's an answer rather than just keep on circulating in something that doesn't work for an entire lifetime, which is really sad.
Yeah. And there's not really many other solutions to that that I've came across. I mean, you might have, like a plant medicine, or you might have some deep unconscious work going on, but it's one of those things you don't even know to work on because you think that's the right way to do it. And using cinesomatics with the body, I can identify this in you in seconds, versus taking years or decades wondering, I'm doing everything right. Like everybody, look, I'm doing it right. Just tell me what to do, or what am I doing wrong? And yeah, just in seconds, and you being able to see it for yourself. And so that's the really cool part, is that that particular thing is something that's very hard to just discover in conversation. And when you do it in the body, it's almost instant.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, you can sometimes see it and you go, I'm reversed wired, but then it's like you just keep doing it anyway. Like,
Yeah. Well, great.
Yeah.
Anything else in the book?
I know that the chapters about being a victim really stood out to me, and after I read them, I was just like, I don't know, it was pretty strong.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, the chapters on victimhood, victim mentality, and narcissism tend to be pretty. They tend to be the big hitters. Maybe the shadow work for some people, but it's not necessarily confronting. But those two, whew, yeah, at least for me, they were very hard for me in my own life.
Yeah, I can definitely see that huge victim happening. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really hard to address. It's really hard to talk to. Um, there's a lot of political correctness. There's a lot of rescuing. There's just a lot of trauma and noise around these very, very sensitive topics. But I found that the more you sort of beat around the bush, the less it serves. And so I wrote this book and build these communities. So this stuff is the entry level work to the level of the work that I do. The level of work I do is very, very advanced. So this sort of acts a little bit as a filter, that if it pisses you off and you don't like me, then you're probably not gonna like the deeper work. I'm sure Danielle and a few people here can attest to some of the intensity of that. But if you're able to see it and hear it and say, "Fuck yeah, dude, who are you, man? Like, fuck off." But actually, all right, okay, yeah, I can't really lie. Then that's a good path.
Yeah, no, I didn't get that, but I
Okay.
found the concept of stopping. All I usually could do, you had those two definitions of stopping, and I could just see that all I was able to do was the first one, like the kind of, yeah, the
The
first one that
blocking,
you,
yeah.
yeah, and just stopping itself. Yeah, that Yeah, that I mean, I had a little taste of that just before I came on, and I thought, okay, I stopped, and there was nothing. There was just like an emptiness, and I thought I'd come to the bottom of it, and I was in that emptiness for a while, and then I was just like, I wanted to fill it again with just the same stuff, and it just recycled again. So yeah, I was a bit,
Yeah, we
I
call
don't
that
know.
pausing.
Oh, a pause.
Pause,
Okay,
yeah.
so not an
Yeah, it's
actual
like I stopped
stop.
smoking 20 times. Nope. You never really stopped. You just kind of maybe took a pause. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, the depth of that, to me, it just seems like it's not something you could do. It would just happen to you. That's kind of my that's kind of my feeling about it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, this is just the beginning. We have
Mhm.
lots and lots of tools. Even though if you can imagine the book, that's 1% of what we're really doing here, in the grand scope of everything. So lots of different doorways into it. We have the concepts, we have the discussion, we have maybe some more spiritual approaches. We have symbolism work, we have dream work, we have the cinesomatics, the movement, the group work. There's all sorts of tools and approaches, and help and ways to see these things. So it's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for holding this.
Yeah, thanks for coming in from Peru.
I finally got in. Yeah, thanks. Thanks to Danielle. She gave me the meeting passcode. So yeah.
Great. Glad you got in.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody got anything they'd like to share or ask? Maybe Glenn, you had some, if you have questions about the book or anything, or Bex or Holly or Neil or Darun, you'd like to share anything?
Yeah, I kind of had, I guess I was prepared.
Great. I love it.
So that's
Finally, somebody who's prepared for.
that chapter when intellect slows you down, and like right the page, the second to last page, where it basically gives you 6 steps to how to begin accessing your intelligence. And so I can do number 1 and number 2. I can be still and I can feel like sink into my body. But then that's about it. Like as far as like waiting for something to come up, feel it, sense it, see an image, hear it. So I don't know
Okay.
any suggestion to.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. We actually, Neil and I were working on this today, right? Yesterday? Today? Today. This morning. Right?
Wait for something to come up? I don't
Feeling
remember this. Ah, okay, yes.
your
Yeah, you
voice.
sit quietly and listen and sense these things to come up, and then I don't know. I really I
Sure. I
couldn't
got
get
you.
it.
I get it, Glenn. Yeah. Yeah, Neil, we were talking about your voice, waiting, speaking from feeling.
Yes.
Yes. Why don't you just start sharing a little bit about your struggles with it first?
Sure, sure. Yeah, Glenn, what you were sharing resonated with me because I spent kind of most of my life mainly intellectualizing stuff, um, gathering knowledge, but not really feeling a lot. Um, so it's been challenging for me to shift to this new state of being. And I've been making mistakes along the way, and Andrew's been kind of guiding me through it. What I've been doing for, I guess, the past week or so in trying to speak from a place of feeling, I've been feeling the feeling and then speaking without realizing that I've actually been disassociating from the feeling when I go to speak. Um, and then, of course, Andrew says, "You want to speak from the feeling." And I'm like, but how do I do that? And it's just a hard concept for me to get used to because I'm just not used to speaking from feeling like that. I can feel and then I speak, but I'm working on, yeah, speaking from feeling. So, yeah.
So when did you first start being able to feel the feelings? I mean, when did that? How did you do that?
You know, that's a good question, Glenn, because I thought before coming into this work that I was good at feeling, but it turned out that I actually have a lot of sadness in my life that I just haven't addressed, that I've avoided uh, since I would say the age of 10 or so. And it's just running my life now. Uh, that and also feelings of not being good enough, like never feeling like I'm good enough. Um, and so it's been a new journey for me, connecting with those feelings in a much deeper way that I've been avoiding. It's been really hard. It still is very hard for me. Um, it still feels like I'm excavating more stuff. Even as I speak now, I can feel just sadness and some terror also from like childhood trauma. And
Yeah, so what are you feeling right now?
was that a question for me,
Yes.
Andrew, or
Yep.
feeling sad?
So one of the things that Neil just shared very eloquently, that today we sort of discovered, was that there was a disconnect. So when I'm working with somebody, I'm in feeling, I'm in my body. And what that means is I'm not in my head analyzing, right? I don't got a checklist saying, all right, Neil's got 12 degrees left on his ear, and then he makes a 4-point smile. That no, what I'm doing is in my body, and I'm essentially empathically feeling him. There's no real voodoo here. I'm just feeling him. And when I'm working with somebody, I'll tune into you, Glenn, here in a moment, and just kind of give a little tune into you. Um, but when I'm working with somebody and I'm feeling them, I can feel if they're feeling or not. When you're in your head, you can't tell if someone's feeling or not because you don't have access to it. So it's been in my experience and with clients doing this thousands of times, it is 100% apparent that the intelligence, that feeling, is the underlining thing that's going on. And so if you can feel, you can also access your intellect, right? So if you're in feeling in your body, you can of course access your brain, your mind. But if you're up here, it's really hard to access feeling. And that's why it's about dropping into the body. That's why we use these certain terms: ground, drop in, feel the body, get out of the head, down, because we sort of move through the world just locked up in here for a lot of us in the West. So, what was going on with Neil was that he actually was feeling. But then when he went to go talk, he unplugged from the feeling and went into creating thoughts and preparing and speaking from the head. So, he was in the feeling, he actually was willing to feel it. But then, in order to talk, he had to unplug from that. And so, what he was practicing now and what we're going to be practicing on the future is how can he stay in the feeling and let the feeling speak through him. So, Glenn, when you mentioned, all right, I can get quiet, but I'm just waiting around. What am I waiting around for? What comes after that? Um, what we want to do is essentially, now in the beginning, it's going to be cumbersome. It's going to feel harder and slower. In the beginning, it's going to feel sloggier because it's a new way of doing it. It's literally like imagining doing everything with your non-dominant hand all over again. You're like, oh, geez, man, I just feel. I can brush my teeth fine. Now I'm using my left hand. I feel like I'm, you know, not very smart or something. So oftentimes it can feel that way if we're very rusty, if we're very disconnected and unplugged from it, because you're literally starting to orient yourself to life in a completely new way. It's like imagine you've spent your whole life listening through the world, and now you're looking through the world to navigate. So going back to this part, what happens is, like in step 3, when I say listen to the silence and wait for it to arise, let it inform you. Don't work, don't seek. Oftentimes, what happens is you'll see people thinking, and they're like, right, they're doing this. This is sort of a seeking. This is a searching, and this is like neuroscience. You know, the eyes are literally connected in the brain, and it's literally just parsing through data. There's nothing bad or wrong with it. It's just a very different approach. What happens, why it's one of the reasons it's not the preferred way, is because when I'm doing this, you can probably get the sense you lose me, right? If I'm like this, I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, geez, I really wonder, yeah, and all the ways. Let me tell you about my trip. Isn't it such a good trip? How do you guys feel? Probably feel like, hey, where'd he go? Like, come back, come back. Where did you go? Come back to me. So what happens is that when we engage our intellect to that high of a degree, when we're in our head, it doesn't mean not think, right? Thinking is important. The intellect is very important. I spend all this time saying it's good, a good thing. We're not demonizing it. But when you're stuck in your head, just life is so much harder, and you lose access to all these things, and you lose access to each other in the space. So when I'm up here, what's actually happening is I'm leaving the present moment and space. I'm doing kind of voodoo magic here because I'm looking into the camera. So I'm kind of learned how to do this without being here because I'm looking in the lens to make it feel like I'm looking into your eyes kind of thing. But if you can see me here, you can feel me here versus this, right? Talking up here. But if I come down here, if I say, all right, let me share, yeah, yeah, these are things that I'm feeling. And I'm talking from down here. Yeah. It doesn't quite feel as much as I'm leaving you as being up in the head. Often my experience and many people's experiences down here, you can still connect to me. What happens is when I go into feeling, I'm becoming vulnerable. I'm opening up the channels and I'm going down to feel. And I'm also staying open to you, to the space. This is more of an advanced process. I can, at this point, do this and still come from feeling, waiting for the words to come up rather than being in my head. It's more advanced when you can stay plugged into somebody and the entire space all around you and yourself. So those of you that have worked with me, you may have remembered or you may have heard me say, keep your eyes open. There's many reasons for that. But one of them is oftentimes when people want to go inside, they go inside to feel, they shut off the space in order to do it. It's okay, not bad, not right or wrong. But in this more advanced work, what we want to do is to be able to go inside and feel and see while maintaining our connection with the space. There's multiple reasons for that, but one of them is about what we're talking about is staying connected, right? When I go down here, if I go like this, I say, okay, guys, I'm inside feeling. wow, did you guys all experience everything? Right? You're cut off. It's really hard unless you have very highly developed abilities to know what the hell is going on for me. But if I'm like this, I can start going into things. And what I'm doing in the work is I'm reading people. Because when they go into feeling and I'm in feeling, I can read their minds, right? I can read their minds. I can read what they're feeling. I know exactly what's going on. I start seeing things, right? All of this data starts coming through because they've plugged into the data. I'm plugged into my data. There's intimacy, there's connection, and there's a massive exchange of information versus I think I gave this example. If you have two people, da, 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 yes, yeah, da, 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 and the other one's like, yeah, da, 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 and 20 minutes goes by in the end, and they have no one remembers anything that anybody said. That's one of the downfalls of being in your head. So contrast that with people that are in feeling, speaking from feeling, it has impact. There's an emotional impact. You can feel it, you can remember it, and you can say more in 5 words from feeling than you can say in 50. So those are a few things. There's also the therapeutic aspect of it um, that Neil was beginning to touch on. So I'm doing a bit of weaving here and kind of going around the place because this is a big question. This is like huge. People work with me for a long time to literally be able to do this one thing that you're asking the question of. So it's a fantastic question. There's just a lot to it. And most people don't know that there is. They don't, they maybe have a sense that, man, I'm just stuck in my head overthinking all the time, or they feel like they're not in reality. I had many years where I'm like, I'm just trying to touch things because I don't feel like I'm here. It's like, where am I? Because I'm just stuck in my head so much. Programming behind the computer, whatever it is. So there's a lot here. And we were talking about sort of the connection between each other, right? The intimacy, the exchange of information, the data, the speaking, the waiting for it. And so in that part 3, while you're waiting for the information, right? I was up here, da 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 da, da seeking. One of the benefits is you can stay connected to yourself in the space. You don't have to leave the present moment and the people you're with in order to get the information, right? In order to seek it. Instead, you sort of make a query, right? It's like Google. You just make the query and it comes up with the answers. You don't have to go to 800,000 different web pages to find it. You just say, this is what I want, and you just wait for the results to come back. That's kind of what's happening here, except you're using an analog computer. So feeling is analog. Quantum field, it's analog. The brain, right, more digital. Computers, digital. Ones and zeros versus a gradient, a range. So when you wait, in the beginning, this is where it's more clumsy. This is where it feels like, oh, geez, come on. I can talk faster than this. I'm smarter than this. And then you just get frustrated and say, well, let me just go back to my head because that's so much easier. But eventually, you wait. And what comes through eventually starts becoming less and less of ego, less and less of trauma, less and less of narcissistic image validation. It becomes less and less about all of our suffering and our struggles. And it becomes more and more a deeper voice, a deeper truth, a more resonant truth. Literally, the resonance in your body. When people speak from feeling, you're going to hear in a few months, maybe it'll take longer, we don't know, Neil, from when he first came on the calls and how we talked then, you're going to see him in a year. and he's going to sound like a completely different person, even though he's going to be more him than he's ever been. And he's a musician, he's a singer. So this is going to have a dramatic impact in his life and career. And he had a major breakthrough today just in what you asked, Glenn, in just having him wait for the feeling and speaking from the feeling. And what he shared, I'm going to share it because you just shared it with all the sadness came up. And so as I held the space for him and he let himself feel this, he gave himself permission to go into this. A backlog, I think you said from your 12 or 8, from a very young age, 10, maybe it was 10. I went on and said, yeah. And so he's got decades of suppressed sadness. And going into the intellect is a way to avoid having to face and feel all that. I did this. So many of us do this. And that's the egoic intellect's pain. We say at some point, fuck feeling. For whatever reason. Maybe it's not getting us the result we want. Maybe it causes us too much pain. Maybe we've been violated. Maybe we are being abused. Maybe we've been heartbroken, right? There's a lot of people that say, fuck love. I don't need love. There's a lot of women that say, sex, why would you? Who cares? Well, guess what? The people that say they don't need love, they don't need sex, none of those people have great sex or great love. Those are all people that have been hurt or rejected, which is hurt, or have never been exposed to it, neglected. I'm working with a few clients that have not necessarily been violated and abused, but have had massive emotional neglect from their parents. And so they just don't know. They just don't have the reference point. I worked with a client once, 2 sessions, only 2. And I'll never forget this. It fucking blew my mind. I was seeing him in the movements, and it was essentially, it was just all flat. And I started to share with him what I stand for in this work, what I'm offering, because this work is very different. Those of you that have started working with me longer, and even in just a few calls, this is different. This is not just coming in, we have a quick fix, and whatever. For many people, we can do that. Some people come in and say, just help me with this, and I'm like, great. But what I'm really offering is a completely new way of relating to ourselves and life, because that was what was offered to me and what saved my life. And once I got that, I never going back. Once I actually got to feeling and I was able to move past suffering as my baseline, I said, oh my God, I'm never going back. I mean, the entire universe opens up to you. And so I'm sharing with this client what I'm offering you, what we're standing for here is beauty, is love, it's curiosity, it's playfulness, it's fun, it's ease, it's joy, it's abundance. And I said some things around joy and love and play. And he looks at me and he says, why would I want any of that? I said, and I don't get stumped much, but that stumped me. I said, I've had a lot of people come in and say they've been hurt. I've had people say, I see the value in fun and joy and beauty. I just don't want it. I'm just not interested in, I'm hurt too much. But I've literally never had somebody say they didn't value it or it wasn't valuable. So, whoa. Well, I don't think I'm going to be able to help you here because you don't value what I'm offering you. The first call, he went and took it and actually made like tens of thousands of dollars from the first call and implementing it in his business. This was, yeah. So it was amazing because that person, I looked at their space when we had the call, absolutely sterile, absolutely sterile, 100% utilitarian. Utility, very valuable, right? But this was someone who grew up in an environment that was very cold. There was not play, there was not cuddles, there was not warmth, there was not hugs and kisses as a kid. And for as far as I could say, um, either borderline or sociopathic. Just somebody that absolutely did not value emotion or feeling whatsoever. And I can help people like that if they value having those things. If they don't value it, um, they're not going to like what I offer, even if they need it. So that's why I talk about the egoic intellectual's pain, because oftentimes most people have just been hurt, and some other people just have never had the reference point. And so with Neil, right, he had this backlog of pain and hurt, and he didn't completely disconnect, right? So and you can correct me, but he didn't just numb himself out of existence and operate as an android robot. He was we've been able to access feeling very quickly with guidance, right? Because there's a lot of ego protection strategies that say, "Oop, I'm out of here." Oop, right? He puts on a mask and all of this stuff. So my job is to help people through those things, and he can feel. So Neil, it's okay. You're not a sociopath. Don't worry. um, and even people that can't feel that are in their head doesn't mean they're sociopaths either. And so for me, it's been a massive journey. It took about 5 years to switch from my default baseline of living in my head and thinking my way through life to my default baseline, feeling my way through life. And that literally, as of now, my life's work to help people do that and to show the difference. And um, it's just a completely different reality. Even Neil, you can share a little bit about this. You even were posting yesterday in the group about how just a few examples of perceiving the world and moving through feeling just has just been completely different for you.
Yeah, it's been a stark contrast for me because I've been living in a lot of suffering and a lot of pain, to be honest. And it's gotten a lot worse over the past couple years, where joy doesn't feel as joyous to me anymore either. And since I started working with Andrew, it's gotten really hard. Very painful, very quickly. Um,
So I'm going to
and
pause. I'm going to pause with that, just
sure,
so we don't terrify everybody.
yeah,
That's absolutely true. The important thing to realize is that pain was already within you. A lot of people come in and they say, I actually have had calls with people, and they're like, "Are you trying to make me feel like shit? You're trying to piss me off." Yeah, I mean, I literally had one guy, um, and he says, I say, "Yeah, you have all this suppressed rage." He's like, "I don't have any rage. I can't see it. You're trying to make me mad." I'm like, that's why I called it suppressed rage. It was just such a perfect example. If you ever watches this, bless your heart. But it's just, yeah, suppressed rage. Of course you don't see it because you're suppressing it. So people come in and they have this experience, and I had this experience of, oh my God, my life's worse. Fuck this guy. I paid how much money I'm spending, how much time, and this is supposed to be some spiritual and healing, and I get on the call and I just feel like shit. I feel worse. I feel inadequate. I feel small. I feel insecure. I feel sad. Yeah, well, it's not about feeling good. I hate you, Andrew. It's about feeling. And so what happens is so many of us have shut off from feeling. And it's usually not joy that we shut off from. Some of us. It's usually what would people would call the shadow or negative emotions, the bad stuff. And so, well, what happens when we start feeling in the beginning of the work is, well, we got a backlog of suppressed emotions that we've dissociated from and suppressed for decades. Well, when we start to get you to feel, if we can, guess what? There's that backlog. And so it's an important distinction because if you don't know it, the ego says, fuck this guy. Because I've done that. You know, I've worked with people like, fuck this guy. I feel like I'm worse after this call. I thought you were supposed to cheer me up. No, this work's very different. It's about feeling. So even though you've it's been harder and you're crying and you're feeling this incredible pain, that's pain that's been within you. And you had a great experience today. Well, I'm not going to go into it unless you would like to share. But one of the things that I discovered and we find out is that it's not necessarily what we think it is. That after decades of running, avoiding, betraying, abandoning, suppressing, judging ourselves, we actually let ourselves feel these things. It's a courageous act of self love. And we just get it backward. Like Nadine, we were talking about reverse wiring. So many of us think that feeling the grief and the heartache and the sadness is bad and wrong, and we should do everything to push it away and avoid it. Do everything we can not to feel it. That has data, it has wisdom, it has information. It's loving, it's healing. It's not going to go anywhere until you feel it. Right? It's that old adage, you have to feel it to heal it. And so, even circling that, we'll get back to you, Neil. Even even circling back to Glenn, right? Sometimes when we're stuck in our head and we're waiting, it's because in order to feel those things, in order to start getting that intuitive information coming up, it requires us to start feeling. And if there's things there we absolutely refuse to feel, well, it locks it up. And it's a non-selective road. So you can't you can't pick to only feel positive emotions because when you shut off the negative ones, you also shut off the positive ones. When you take medicine that numbs you out, right? People are on some pharmaceuticals. It numbs out all their depression. Yeah, but guess what? They don't feel joy or anything. So the willingness to start feeling those things is going to be also the doorway in accessing that deeper intelligence. But it requires courage, like Danielle and Holly, Bex, Tarun, Heather, Neil. The courage to start feeling those things. The willingness to say, all right, this sucks. And you've all experienced, and I've experienced, on the other side of that. You're like, wow, I feel better. Okay, there's something to it. Oh, my life's working better. Interesting. Oh, the more I do this feeling thing, all right, now take it away, Neil, right? The more you do this feeling thing,
Yeah, the more I do the feeling thing, just in the past week, it has transformed many things for me. Relationships, so dating, my family relationships, transformed how I do presentations at work, how I interact with audiences. And even though I guess I wasn't speaking as well from feeling as I could have, but just doing the best that I could, it already transformed things so much. Like it just made me feel like I could receive love more too. So,
Or just that.
yeah. And it's hard, even as I talk now, because if I were to be true to my feeling, I just feel a lot of sadness still, you know? And and that's the truth. There's just this undeniable current of sadness that sometimes it feels like I don't trust joy anymore, or, you know, and yeah, I'm just gonna work through it.
It's more in integrity to feel and not say anything at all than it is to try to talk over it. And so if you were, not that you have to, but for example, if you were to just simply actually feel the sadness and let's say feel the, maybe tears come up, you're crying. If you just sat here on these calls for the next 2 months and all you did was feel the sadness, it'd change your life. You would say more, you would lead us more, you would contribute more value to this group to be in integrity and feeling that sadness than any advice or realization or teaching or feedback that you could share by leaving that. And the most important thing in that is you actually have to be in integrity feeling it. Wallowing in it, feeling sorry for yourself, manipulating us for attention, faking it, acting out, crying and feeling sad because of the sadness, actually reacting to the reactions. That doesn't work. I remember when I penetrated my depression, the instructions were literally do not do anything else until you feel through this. I said, what? I got work to do. And stay with it. Feel it. Don't do anything until you can feel it. So I said, okay, you're crazy, but I'm going to trust this. And so I literally lied in bed for 2 weeks. I didn't work. I lost all of my, back then I was doing web design. I had like 3 clients. I lost all my web design clients. The money stopped. And I just lied in bed and I just felt depressed. I purposely did. I owned it. I said, all right, I'm going into this depression. I'm just going to feel depressed. And I went deeper and deeper and deeper. And I said, I'm going to the end of this depression. If it was a tunnel, I'm going to the end of it. And it took me 2 weeks of literally just feeling it, right? Not, oh, I'm depressed. I don't want to do anything. I'm not talking about that. I'm doing real work, feeling. I'm going into the stories. I'm penetrating stories. I'm I'm also letting myself feel like a piece of shit, right? So I'm giving myself permission to be depressed. I'm giving myself permission to be a load, to be um, a failure. I gave myself permission. I just did everything. I owned it. I felt it. And after 2 weeks, I said, all right, I haven't been depressed since then. So feeling, the integrity. And so oftentimes it takes time to teach people how to actually feel. So, Neil, you're learning it at a deeper level, and you're learning how to put the mask on, take it off, what it feels like, how to how you're speaking above it, how to speak from it. You're disconnecting, how do we plug it back in? What's actually feeling, what's reacting? You you have your own set of mythologies and stories and embodied archetypes that we're working with. Danielle, right? You've had yours. You've had your own masks. You've had your own stuff. You've had your own hating me for making you feel bad at the end of calls, right? So each of us has our own sort of set of relationships and our journey into feeling. And the amazing thing is, once you're in feeling, because I'm in feeling, I can guide anybody to it. I don't have to have their exact life. I have this reference point of feeling. It took me 5 years to get it. It was the greatest, I think, either the greatest or one of the greatest things I've ever acquired. Not really acquiring the skills around it, being able to do the reading and all of this stuff. It was skills, but that all came from feeling. And this is our birthright. We come, you know, most. I don't know. There's some womb stuff, but for the sake of argument, we come into this world from feeling, right? We don't have an intellect. And so none of this is really learning how to feel. Nobody does it not know how to feel. It's built in. And so what we're doing is subtracting, right? As Glenn, you were talking about in Course in Miracles, right? I call it subtraction, right? It's just removing everything that you're not, who you really are, whatever's not your true self. And in that process, we get back to feeling. And feeling is also in that practice. Everything comes back to feeling. Another great way to think about this is all of our senses have a root in touch, in feeling. Our sense of taste, right? Flavors hitting our taste buds, right? Little molecules of flavor hitting our taste buds. Smells, right? Molecules of gases going and touching the olfactory receptors. Our eyes, photons touching the retina and that whole circuitry. Our neurons literally sending electrical touches. Our sound waves hitting the eardrum. And our touch, obviously, touch, yeah. Like I'm missing something. So this is actually based in some of the mystery school teachings, some of the esoteric teachings that we do, is feeling is the fundamental sense. And so this is a little bit of the background about why it's all about feeling, about why we feel our way through the world instead of only think. Again, you engage your thinking. You say it's very important to think about things. Yes, but it's in its proper place. So we all have a journey, and it all looks different for each of us on what's preventing ourselves from doing that. Some of us actually can feel pretty good. And then there's other questions that come up. Do I trust the feeling? Am I reacting to the feeling, or am I actually feeling the feeling? So we have a spectrum of people that are absolutely in their head intellectuals, that are like feeling is dumb and emotions are useless, to the other end of people being hysterical and crying at everything that crosses their path. Neither are in feeling. So when you see people being emotionally reactive, they're not feeling either. That's something that really bothers some people, those people particularly, because they're like, how dare you? How dare you say I'm not feeling? Don't you see me crying? Don't you see me in pain? Yeah, well, you're faking it. Well, guess what? You're not going to find that in traditional therapy. You're not going to hear that on mainstream Good Morning, whatever country you're in. But we have video, we have movement, we have other reference points. And when I say that, it's not to invalidate people. It's not to be an oppressive, patriarchal man dominating women. No. What's actually happening is I'm trying to liberate the feminine, liberate that feminine feeling without judgment, without suppression, without reactivity. Because this is kind of what we do when we inflate our emotions, when we react to them, we're giving it meaning. We're actually devaluing so many of us on either side, the hysterical side or the um, intellectually cut off, heady side. We devalue feeling. And remember, it's not just the good ones, all feeling. So, Glenn, did any of that answer your question, or at least fill in some ideas?
Yeah, the last thing you said about, I mean, you mentioned it previously also, but when you cut off the negative, you cut off the positive. And yeah, I can see that. I can relate to that. And the other thing was when you were talking about the guy that said, why would I want that? And you kind of touched on what his upbringing was like, that I felt a connection with.
Mm.
Yeah, it was kind of a sadness. I felt some sadness.
Great, good.
Yeah.
The only person in the world that's going to say good for you for feeling sad. But you can see the value, right? You can at least intellectually understand that you started to feel something, and in that feeling, there's something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome very much. This may be the beginning of an entirely new life for you. It might be terrifying. It might be whatever it is. But I've never met anybody or heard any stories of man or woman on their deathbed that ever said, I wish I felt less. I wish I was more heady. So, anybody else got something to share? I'm happy to go a little longer. It's a Halloween, or we could do a Halloween special. I ain't going out trick or treating, so I'm happy to go over if you guys would like to hang out and share. Heather, Bex, I saw some activity. And if you have to go, just let us know and you're free to leave.
Hi. I don't know the difference between analog and digital.
Okay, great question. Digital ones and zeros. It's binary,
Okay,
right? So it's either off or on, off on. All our computers, all electronic devices have an on or off signal,
okay.
zero or one. Probably seen dorky
Yeah.
stuff, right? 0 1 0 1 0, all this nerdy kind of code, the Matrix sort of stuff. That's binary. And basically, that actually came from, I believe it was the I Ching. Yeah, Danielle knows this.
Yeah.
And so you either have the solid line or the broken lines, and you can have infinite variations of anything from the broken lines or the solid lines or ones and zeros off and on. So that's binary. Digital. Analog is what's a great way to say that? Analog is the old radios where you didn't punch in a number and it went to it. You had to turn the dial and it went. That's analog. There's no digital components there to type in the numbers. You had to change a voltage. You actually had to change the amount of electricity moving through something, or however the fuck it works. And 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 so it was. Um, it has an infinite variable. That's another way to say it. Ones and zeros are either yes or no. You get into quantum mechanics and there's yes, no, and maybe. But that's a different story. Analog, there's an infinite gradation in it. You can go, it's like you could imagine between 0 and 1 is an infinite amount of numbers. that's another way to look at it. That infinite amount of variables is going to be more analog. Different ways. If you understand numbers better, if you understand analogies better.
How about the sound of a guitar versus the sound of a drum?
Say more.
Well, the guitar, the string, resonates, and you can slide your finger up and down the string, and that's an analog signal. Whereas a drum, you just whack, 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 whack. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. You just have to remember that a drum is an analog instrument.
Yeah, the head resonates.
resonates.
Yeah, the head resonates. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, but you're onto something. So instruments, right? You have analog instruments, which have free vibration. Then you have digital instruments that, like a synthesizer. So synthesizers, or you can have an analog synthesizer. Anyway, you get the idea. Enough. We're starting.
I do. Yeah.
We're getting too nerdy. Sorry.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Us guys and our nerdy stuff. But thanks, Glenn. Yeah. Bex, I think you were next.
Yeah, I just was going to ask that is when you have a physical sensation, right? You're not actually feeling the emotion, but you're having you're not actually having emotion, you're just having a very strong physical sensation. Is that physical sensation covering up the emotion and the feeling, or is that part of the feeling?
Ooh, how fun. Ooh, I get to never been asked this question. Never thought of it. Let's find out. I think I have an idea. I think there could be variations. I think if you have something you don't want to feel and you start clenching, if you start physically suppressing yourself, you're going to have a physical expression sensation that comes as a result of not wanting to feel that. So that would be, I guess, in your instance of covering it up. If we go to my personal definition of anxiety, which is anxiety is a sensation that is the result of an avoidance of feeling, right? You would have that. So anxiety is, I do not consider anxiety an emotion simply because of what's emerged working with clients. It's not a theory. I haven't heard this from anyone else. It's simply when I see clients moving in their body, when I get them to go into the feeling instead of away from it, all the anxiety disappears. So, I mean, it's just as simple as day to me. So it's not the medical definition, but it's mine and it works much better. And so I'm sticking to it until someone presents me something better. But that is very much a sensation. That is an avoidance of an emotion. You can have physical sensations as part of the emotions. I mean, that's like if like if I get rejected, I physically can feel nauseous. But it's a good question. Does that come from not wanting to feel it? I don't know. I wouldn't say in that instance. I would say that is maybe more of an energetic thing. If you're into like meridians or chakras and stuff like that, the tie-in into the emotions in the physical body, that could be something like that. But it would really have to need an instance. If I had someone doing it in front of me, I would be able to tell.
So when Neil was speaking, I don't know if it's Neil or Glenn, suddenly out of the blue, I got chronic itching. Now I have this problem anyway, but I got chronic itching at the roof of my mouth. Now it was like I didn't have any feeling. All I was doing is listening to them. I was just listening to what Neil was saying and what Glenn was saying. But it just like, it came out of the blue. And my question is, it's like, is that sort of really intense itching, is that covering up something that wants to come through as a feeling? Or is it
Maybe, I don't know.
right?
Yeah, if you were next to me and I was watching you do it, I would have a much better guess. I didn't know this was happening for you. I wasn't aware of that. Um, I have seen, and even myself, um, people when you sort of maybe get uncomfortable, you kind of like scratch your head or do something like this unconsciously. Um, I don't know. Is it a problem in your life?
Oh yeah, chronic.
Okay, all right. Well then,
And it's a lot. So it's probably something that, it's kind of like, but sometimes it's like you think, is that overwhelming thing just trying to take away from the actual feeling so that can't come through, so I don't feel the feeling of
it's a possibility. I don't know for sure for you.
right.
I know
Okay.
certain things happen that are really weird, like when we're giving feedback in a group and somebody has to leave to go pee. It's like exactly what they needed to see,
Right.
and their ego just wouldn't let them see it. I've seen that. That's amazing. Done it myself. Um, so there are things like that. I just I don't know for you specifically yet. If it were me, I would start tracking the topics
Hmm.
of when it happens. So
Mm.
you might start saying, oh, every time someone's talking about grief or whatever, as you might be able to narrow it down. Um, if you can't, then I would kind of go up to the next step and say, all right, anytime I've experienced something that I don't want to feel, could be that. Um, or maybe, yeah, I don't know, maybe you got a tumor. I don't know.
Yeah.
It,
Thanks.
it, it,
Thanks, Andrew.
yeah, I don't know. The joke being that not everything's an emotion, and so yeah, you pay attention to it. It maybe may not be. The 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 danger is in trying to like hammer and nail kind of thing.
Mm.
Just everything ends up looking like nails. So there's plenty of people I worked with where it's like, oh, this is actually you're literally poisoning yourself every day with eating what you're eating. I don't think it's because you have some secret trauma. You're just getting 2 hours of sleep and eating like shit. Maybe try addressing that first.
Right.
So long answer short, short answer long is I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you then.
you're welcome. Darun, Nadine, Holly, Danielle.
I've been experiencing a new way of being through feeling and giving honest feedback and aligning myself to truth.
Uh-oh.
And being able to access a sort of like honesty and power within myself to tell the ones that I love the truth.
No,
Uh,
I can feel it. Oh, you're finding your voice.
mm, um, and yeah, to be able to say some hard stuff, difficult things, and
How come you didn't take that in?
because I didn't want to lose it. Perhaps I was in my head. Yeah, to be honest with like my mom and say things that are confronting. Um, but to have my truth, to hold that space of aligning to truth, it's such a deep relationship of having covered and rescued for so long that it's a new way. Um, and just to just to have that truth, that love, because that is truth, that is love. And just it being open, to have that intimacy. It's like into me, you see. And I've been allowing that, and it's like all these little tiny little miracles along the way that you think are small at the time, and then you realize are gigantic.
Can I give you a little feedback? Yeah, you were so scared of losing it. And yeah, you were so busy sharing you couldn't receive. It's kind of back to the, um, you're so graciously giving to all of us these realizations, but you wouldn't receive what I offered, which was an acknowledgement of exactly what I'm feeling you go through. So unfortunately, what happens is if you can't receive while you give, the dynamic falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just very curious that you're sharing something so beautiful and wonderful, but I feel you in pain.
I've been feeling a lot of pain, a lot of stuff come up, and just to sit with it, and just have it be the way that it is. Some of it's difficult, and that's like with my mom, saying to her, I realize now what my responsibility is, and I'm not going to rescue you. I'm just going to love you. But it's so layered because as a mother, I said to her, I'm just coming to terms with the truth that things weren't the way that I thought they were going to be. And I made them into a way that into a story that they're not. To be able to say that to my mother because she's part of that reason is difficult because I do love her tremendously. So the truth sometimes just hurts. And that's just what it is. It's just lots of dark sadness. There's also, stuff that's happened in my extended family. Um, it's just very dark. Um, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else?
I just want to say I can really relate to everything you said about feeling the emotions. It was just like spot on what you were talking about and the experiences I've been going through with the head and the emotions. So, yeah, I just want to say that.
Good, great. Are you learning anything?
Yeah, it's good to get it validated. Like what you were talking about feels very relevant to me. So to hear it out from somebody else is just
Great.
it's good. So yeah,
Good.
that's
Yeah, it's great to have those affirmations, especially if the people around us have no clue. Um, so it's one of the reasons for this community is that not a lot of people either understand or can relate or can even if they kind of get it, they don't really have the language or the tools to talk about it. So it's I'm glad that you can say, oh, okay, all right, I get it. Yeah, okay, that's it. All right, somebody else. Okay, yeah, it's really hard to just read this in a book and be alone and try to figure it out yourself. We really need these reference points. We need the reference points of what works, what doesn't work. Great.
yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you. Who's left?
I've been sitting here tearing up the whole time. And I'm kind of second guessing myself about it because I'm trying to figure out if it's coming from a place of hysteria or genuine emotion or something else entirely. I don't know. But I'm getting perfectionistic about it and I'm catching myself doing it.
So let
And
yourself be messy. Just make mistakes. You just blurt it out and we'll figure it out all together. Yeah, that's what all the feedback's for. You're going to be doing some of the group work. That's what it's for. Just make the mistakes. If you're abusive or you're judging people or attacking people, we have to get a little more intense on it because we have to make sure that pe people are safe. Not saying you are, but just in general. But most of the time, even in that, it's simply like you're attacking them. Stop. It's not like, whoosh. Um, but yeah, the permission to get messy, permission to do it wrong. That's the whole point. Just get it out there, especially in the um, uh, early work like this. It's just that's the point. So let's hear it. Let's get it out. Let's find out.
so I'm sitting with it. And I think I've seen emotion be used in so many ways that are unhealthy. I'm not sure that I have a lot of experiences where it wasn't. And this group is one of the few experiences that I have where it hasn't been used in a way that wasn't like some sort of a manipulation of some kind or that someone's emotion wasn't used against them. So I think part of it is I don't want to detract from someone else's experience, which as I'm saying, it feels ridiculous. The other part of it is, I don't, it's a very uncomfortable thing for me to show.
What's uncomfortable?
Showing my emotions.
Oh, okay. Is that just because it hasn't been safe? Yeah. Yeah, it's great to see you now. Since I can see you, I can read you. I can see what's going on with you a lot more now. So I know we got a call. So we're gonna get into a lot of stuff, but I'm just seeing massive just it's like, man, if you could just find somebody loving and safe to just surrender into and just be held by. Um, yeah, I mean, just we can help you with this safety piece because you can feel, um, but it's just so dangerous for you to do so. Yeah. So I wouldn't be second guessing yourself. I think the first, if it were me or if we work together, um, that first layer is going to be sort of that terror and that fear, that panic, um, because that's you know, until you can penetrate this terror and this fear, you're just going to be working against everything. And so we would do that by helping. The, Unfortunately, the thing to do into that is to go into the fear, but in a safe space, in a safe environment, where you won't have it used against you, right? In the proper environment where you can actually surrender to the fear, because oftentimes it's not safe to let yourself feel it. It's like you can't even let yourself feel the terror and be safe in feeling the terror because the entire mythology is dangerous. So that's sort of what I'm seeing with you. I think that yeah, just that's just going to be the first piece. Your whole nervous system is just is just afraid. Yeah, and so getting you in your body, feeling safe in your body, safe in your feeling, um, it's it's going to be life changing. However, in my approach here, it does require the courage to go into what you're afraid of because then we're going to find out, right? You probably have a sense of the traumas and the stuff that's happened to you that's probably contributed to this. And so the process is going to be starting to heal those things and learning how to be safe on earth in your body. Yeah. And when you do that, I think the rest of the stuff is going to fall into place. I think you'll, as you're around a community of people that aren't abusing you, but are also still, holding you accountable, um, you'll start getting reference points. You'll see people in the main group, right? In the fellowship group, will be giving feedback. I just gave feedback to Danielle because she's a client, and so that was that little bit. We don't do that on these calls. So in the group, you're going to start not only getting feedback from me, but from other people, and you're also going to be giving feedback to other people, and that's going to be very helpful probably for you and for a lot of people who second guess and don't trust what they're feeling because you get to practice. You get to say, well, it feels like the rune. It feels like you're whatever. Heather, oh, it felt like you're this. And then you're going to start being able to get feedback. And I'll say, yes, I feel that too. Or no, you're projecting. No, that's your stuff. And so it's this amazing, beautiful orchestration of untangling projections, perceptions, manipulations, seductions, avoidances, agendas, all of that stuff. And it's like all of these tendrils and tangles that we've all sent out and been receptive to from each other. It just, right? It's kind of what Danielle just talked about, right? I'm not going to rescue you. I love you, but I'm not going to rescue you. It's pulling all of these tendrils back, and then we're each our own people, and then we come together as each our own people, and we're interdependent, and we are loving and kind, and also don't tolerate abuse, bullshit, and disrespect. So when we value ourselves, we value each other, and pull all of those back in, we sort it out and say, okay, that's yours. This is mine. Okay, this, and this was all me. And that part was you. Okay. And so you just do that as a group, and you have multiple people to validate that, not just one guru or just one completely dysfunctional person that doesn't trust anybody and is just lashing out at everybody, right? So you have enough people and enough of these reference points that everybody starts to pull their stuff back, to unplug other people's stuff, and we start getting an agreement on objective reality. So this is subjective and objective. We understand that there are subjective elements, but there also is objective, right? If you want to come in and say this is not a glass, this is actually made of metal and it's a plate, then we have major problems. And you look in our society and there's some very bad things happening where people are questioning very, very fundamental things, where we literally have some societies that can't agree on this. And that is near the end of that cohesion of that culture. So what we're doing in this work is not only in ourselves being able to say, this is a glass, this is for me. I'm feeling, I'm in my head, right? Which is it? This is grief, this is sadness, this is anger, I'm being a victim, I'm taking responsibility, right? We're sorting it out all in ourselves. And then in a group, we're also sorting it out collectively. So it's very, very, very valuable for people that are gifted or are actually on the right track, but their environment has told them otherwise. So we get people that are just really dysfunctional and then they have to learn how to do these things. Then we have other people that are actually really functional. They've just never been validated in their life. They've just been, if you're, let's say, empathic and you've been around narcissists and abusive people, or you're a genius and you're around stupid people, right? You're just going to think you're useless. You're not going to have any value. And so the work isn't just shadow work. That's a major part of it, to scare the wrong people away. But it's also light work. It's also really in the sense of reflecting back to you what works, what's beautiful. Just a lot of us come in with a lot of dysfunctional things and it's like, hey, we got to get through these layers. And as I say in the book, fundamentally, it's about subtraction, because who you really are, your true self, right? There's nothing wrong with you. You have everything you need. You're enough. You're deserving. You have value, right? All of these things. And sometimes we just need the right people to show us our gifts, show us our beauty, show us our brilliance. So, as usual, don't know if it answered your question, but that's the answer I had.
I even answered questions I didn't even know I had. So
Great.
I think, yeah.
All right. Darun, final words or questions?
I just appreciated the fact then that when Neil said he was feeling a lot of pain, and then he started working with you, and he felt a lot more pain really quickly. And you said, hang on a minute, before I scare everyone off, that's 100% true. And I just held my breath. Like, but it gets better. I was like, that was hilarious. And it's very, very true. It absolutely does. And but you learn to
First person,
really
what have
be
you
with it.
learned? What have you learned?
I learned that I don't die, despite all of it, and
There's a lot of it, yeah.
yeah, it's just I'm still here, and the fire hoses are going and going and going, and I'm still here. And I think the big misconception I had was this is going to overwhelm me and going to destroy me, and I'm still here. And through that, I developed courage, and I developed responsibility. And the biggest thing that I needed to develop that to was for me. And Those are all incredibly beautiful things, and the feelings don't go away. It still is really painful, but I'm still there, and I'm learning to. It's just that I don't want the world to be easier, but for me to get stronger. And I never knew this was a way you could actually do that. This was the way to do that, like nothing else.
I think I'll add one thing is that the point on still, it's not the same stuff,
Mm, absolutely.
right? So we're taking layers off. We're working on different things. Just as a clarification, because it's not like, all right, we're doing the same topic for 2 years and you haven't made any progress. It's
Well,
just
it
that we're
sometimes feels like that,
yeah.
but yes, different layers. Absolutely right. Like today. Like today, early in the call, we were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you didn't see that in me before," and I'm like, "Man, I never knew I had that in me before."
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's
Yeah.
that's a testament to your courage to keep showing up,
Mm.
your willingness. I mean, he flew out his entire family a few weeks ago to do an intensive with me in person from Australia.
From Brisbane, Nadine.
Are you guys close to each other?
Oh, she's in the same city as me. Yeah.
Oh, wow, amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
the Gold Coast, I'm actually from. I just say Brisbane because everyone knows Brisbane.
Same, same. We're
Yeah,
close enough.
Oh, cool,
small world.
great.
Yeah. So now we've got Katie, Nadine, and me from Brisbane/Gold Coast. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I saw
maybe.
that lady because when she said Brisbane, when I watched the replay, I was like, wow, like,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
maybe you guys get a handful more people, and we might be doing maybe a Australian. Uh, oh, how about a retreat down under, down under?
Yes. Yes. Bring up the learning that you get from Peru, Andrew, and from you, Nadine, and we're on.
Yeah, great.
Funny.
Anything else, Darun? Nope. Anybody else? Final words besides Happy Halloween? Glenn, what are you experiencing here? This is your second time, first time participating. Are we scaring you yet?
It feels like a blessing. I mean, this is really uh, generous of you. It feels like to me to, I don't know, what you impart upon us is pretty profound, and I feel very grateful for it.
Thank you.
So
We're
far, so
grateful.
good.
Good. Grateful to have you here. Anybody else? You go mute yourself. Final calls. Goodbye. Happy Halloween.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy
Thank
Halloween,
You're
everyone.
welcome.
Goodbye.
Happy Halloween. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye. Nadine, how long are you going to be in Peru?
Till the 20th of November.
Well, I think I'll miss you. Let's see. I'm going there the 20th. Yeah, okay.
Oh, weird.
Maybe I'll see you at the airport. All right, well, enjoy the rest of your trip.
Thank you. Thank you. And is it your website where you look for the offerings and stuff, or
For what?
like what you offer? Like when you mention calls and stuff that you have with people, is
Yeah,
that on your
yes.
website?
Yeah, on my website, my private practice is filled right now. But you can put your name on the wait list. People that are partaking in this stuff get bumped up to the top. So you can do that. We have workshops coming up. We have a in-person Slack line. Probably don't know if you'll be doing that in Nashville, but that's in December. So we have that in December in person. We have a workshop in January, a weekend workshop. We have one actually this weekend, but it's filled. And then we have the fellowship, which is essentially this format, but instead of me talking for 40 minutes, we're going to actually be doing group work and feedback and getting into things and actually doing work. So if you're interested in this format and want to join us, that would be the fellowship. You'll see a form in this group. And then, yeah, so you can go to andrewdaniel.org. We'll have the events. I haven't made the fellowship public yet. I'll probably send an email announcing that. So, yeah.
Okay,
Check
great.
the school group, and then andrewdaniel.org.
Great, I will. Thanks.
Awesome. What else you
See you
got?
tomorrow.
Everybody's sticking around. You guys got something else?
I had some questions about when that's going to start and whether it's like an open group, closed group, how does
It's
how does
closed
all
group.
of that? Okay.
I guess I don't know. I don't know what you mean by that, but
Like,
yeah,
can
it's.
somebody start at any time
Oh yes,
down the
yeah,
road
yeah,
or okay.
yeah. So basically, how as I made in the comments, this is something that at least for now, my vision of this is for doing it for decades. Um, my mentor did his version of this, um, and that was running for 30 years that they met. It was called Wednesday Nights, and so I'm just doing my my version of that in honor of him at the same time, same day. Um, and so that it's going to be a bit different than him. I want more of a long-term committed group. So it's not just drop-ins, because I found that people just dropping in either just once and then never doing it again, or like dropping in 5 times over a year. It's just not the approach I want to take. Um, so I want people that are at least committed to do it monthly. Um, so there's monthly or yearly options on that. Um, and yeah, so that's something that I really, uh, a fellowship. I called it, years. I've been planning that name, because what do we really want? We want people that are as committed as us. Um, there's so many of these groups. Oh, I'm going to join the Guru's, online experts group, and it's just crap. Um,
Mm.
and you're not really doing real work. You got like 4 people answering. It's just not very substantial. So I want to go deep, um, with a group over a long period of time. Um, and it's not going to be. I don't want it to where you can just come on and off of it. Um, what I mean by that, like if you go to the gym, it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna leave." It's like it's it's a very approachable price point, and you get to watch all the replays. So if there's a couple months you can't make it, you're still going to be a part of the group. You're still going to see the replays of everybody, um, and that's very valuable. So yeah, so it's high committing in a way that like this isn't for dabblers, but it's also not like the advanced programs where you have to be there every week and we're doing a set thing. It's a long-term ongoing thing. Um, and so we're going to be doing, everybody that's filled out that form on the school group. Um, I think next week, I believe the next 2 weeks, we're just going to do a free group, because then I'm going to Peru, and then we're going to start up in December when I come back from Peru. Um, or maybe wait till the new year, depending on if people are just nobody's available for holidays or whatever. So that's the plan. We're going to do 2 free ones, and then start up the group in December when I get back. And that'll give enough taste for people to say, okay, I get it, or no, that's not what I thought. But you guys that have been in this for a while, you're gonna be like, oh my God, finally, this is what I wish the other group was like. And those of you watching on the replay, if you want that, you can join us, because we're gonna start doing real work, and that's all gonna be private. Once in a while, I might like put a replay up like on YouTube if there's nothing sensitive, or if there's sensitive stuff, I'll remove it, or maybe some clips. But most of it, it's the replays are going to be private. They're not even going to be on YouTube. You have to pay to be able to get access to any of it. So that's what I meant by closed. It's not something that people can watch the replays are. It's going to be in the same community. So, right, the discussions and everything are still going to all be in the same community. So we don't just parse everything out. So we can stay together. But the replays are all going to be locked. So you don't have to worry about people that aren't in the group just watching all of those. Anything else? I think that's about all I can think of to answer your question. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Danielle?
What you gonna do in Peru? Are you gonna go take ayahuasca, be in the jungle?
Yeah, we're gonna do some work with some shamans.
Nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, secret shaman stuff. Anything else?
I'll share a breakthrough that I had since my session with you, Andrew, but only if you turn off the recording.
Okay. All right, guys. If you guys want to watch this replay and join the fellowship, come do it. And that's where we're going to share all the juicy stuff. Bye. Okay.